At the most glamorous ball of 2025, the mistress sparkled for a moment, but the wife rose above humiliation and stole the night before. We start today's story. Comment below where you're watching from and hit subscribe if you haven't already. You won't want to miss what's next. The Beverly Grand Hotel sparkled like a giant treasure. Its crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, throwing shiny diamonds of light across floors made of marble so expensive, most people could never afford a house like this. Tonight, California's richest people had gathered for the charity ball of the year. The women wore fancy dresses that cost more than most families' cars, and the men wore sharp suits. Their smiles were bright, but not always sincere. At the top of the grand staircase, a woman in a midnight blue silk dress stood tall. Everyone looked at her. This was Sarah's night. Not because she had wanted it, or because she had planned it, but because tonight her husband was going to show off his new girlfriend at the very event Sarah had spent months organizing. And the girlfriend was wearing Sarah's special emerald necklace, her 10th anniversary gift. Sarah had two choices. She could cry and disappear, or she could rise and show everyone who she really was. Sarah chose fire. Tonight, while her husband and his girlfriend smiled in front of everyone, Sarah would show all of Beverly Hills one truth. Diamonds sparkle, but queens make their own light. Everyone would talk about what happened that night for years. Not because of gossip, but because Sarah showed what true strength looked like. Sarah was the kind of woman who made things happen, not loudly or desperately, but quietly with careful thought. Real power, she knew, didn't shout. It just existed. Sarah had met Caspian 12 years ago at a tech conference in San Francisco. Back then, Caspian was still building his company in a tiny office in Palo Alto. Sarah worked as a marketing strategist, which meant she knew how to make companies successful. Caspian was smart with computers and ideas, but he wasn't good at talking to people or convincing them to invest in his company. Sarah saw what he could become, even when others didn't. For 18 months, Sarah worked with Caspian without getting paid. She helped him make better presentations, design his brand, and meet the right people. When Caspian finally got $15 million from investors, everyone congratulated him. But it was really Sarah's smart planning that made it happen. Caspian and Sarah got married on a cliff by the Pacific Ocean, watching the waves crash against the rocks. The sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and pink. Caspian promised Sarah everything. "Everything I build," he whispered, "is ours, you and me, always." For years it had felt true, or at least Sarah believed it was. Their house in Beverly Hills was beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows let in the California sunshine. Every room was designed by Sarah, from the ceramics in the breakfast nook to the chairs in Caspian's office. She had built not just a house, but a life full of beauty, light, and thoughtfulness. Caspian's company grew from a small startup to a huge tech company worth $300 million. They moved in rich and famous circles. Sarah organized charity events in Malibu, art gallery openings in Los Angeles, and fancy dinners in Hollywood Hills where movie stars and business people mingled. She did all this not for fame, but because she knew that in California, connections were very important. Sarah was more than just Caspian's wife. She chaired 3 big charity organizations, raising millions to help children learn. She helped run a modern art museum and curated exhibitions that drew people from around the world. People respected Sarah for her brains, her grace, and her ability to make big things happen. But as Caspian became more successful, he began to change. The man who had always asked Sarah's opinion stopped talking to her about important decisions. He started working late, traveling a lot, and making her feel distant. Sarah noticed, but she thought it was because he had more responsibility now. She was wrong. 6 months ago, Sarah found the first sign of the truth. Caspian had gone to New York for a conference, or so he said. Sarah was in the kitchen, finishing work on the charity gala budget. She just wanted to check when he would come home. But then she saw a message on his computer. Last night was perfect. I miss you already. Can't wait until Saturday. There was a photo attached. Caspian's arm was around a woman Sarah didn't know. She was young, beautiful, with long dark hair. They were in a fancy hotel room with the New York skyline behind them. Sarah stood in her kitchen, feeling the world tilt. The sun shone in, making everything look golden, but it felt like a lie. Sarah didn't yell or cry. She didn't storm out. She knew from experience that being calm and smart mattered more than showing anger. She waited. She watched. She gathered proof. In the weeks that followed, Sarah learned the truth. The woman was Junie Moss, a 28-year-old social media influencer. She had 200,000 followers and shared pictures of fancy vacations and clothes. She had met Caspian 3 months earlier at a party in Los Angeles. Sarah found receipts, hotel bookings, and dinner reservations for Caspian and Junie, proof that Caspian had been lying. The betrayal wasn't just private. Caspian had started taking Junie to business events, introducing her as a marketing consultant. Slowly, he was trying to replace Sarah in their social circles. Sarah realized she had made a mistake. She had thought 12 years together, all the sacrifices and work she had done, meant something permanent. She was wrong. 3 weeks ago, the final insult came. Over breakfast, Caspian casually told Sarah he was bringing Junie to the charity Gala. She's helping with our social media, he said, without looking at her. Sarah sipped her coffee. It was Ethiopian coffee from a special roaster, of course. She said nothing. But in that moment, Sarah made a decision. She had 3 weeks to prepare, not to survive the night, but to win it. 3 weeks to show everyone exactly who Sarah was. The night of the gala arrived. The California weather was perfect. Warm air smelled of jasmine and ocean salt. The sky turned purple and gold. Sarah stood in her bedroom looking in the mirror. Her dress was midnight blue silk, made by a designer who knew real elegance doesn't shout, it whispers. The dress flowed like water and fit perfectly. Her jewelry was simple, diamond earrings that belonged to her grandmother. No necklace, no bracelet, nothing that reminded her of Caspian. Her hair was in a neat updo, showing her graceful neck. Her makeup looked natural, but perfect. She looked like what she truly was, a strong, smart woman who could shine without a man. Caspian had left an hour earlier to pick up Junie. Sarah knew all about it, but tonight she wouldn't need words. She wouldn't need words. Tonight, she would show everyone exactly who Sarah was. The Beverly Grand Hotel looked like a palace. Its white walls glowed in the evening. Fancy cars lined the driveway. Valets in crisp uniforms opened doors for people wearing expensive clothes. Photographers flashed their cameras on the red carpet. Everyone who mattered in California was there, and they had all come because of Sarah. Sarah arrived alone, stepping out of a sleek black car. She walked with calm confidence, not too early, not too late, just perfect. Everyone stopped and looked at her. This was Sarah's moment. Photographers called her name. They recognized Sarah, the woman who had made this big event so special. She paused, turned, and gave them a warm smile, the kind of smile that had appeared in magazines before. She looked confident and kind, almost untouchable. Inside, the ballroom looked magical. Sarah had worked with a team from Culver City to make it feel like a California dream. Everything looked elegant and fancy, but in a calm, natural way. White orchids hung from shiny crystal vases on every table. Soft lights made the room glow golden and soft. Tall windows showed the bright lights of Beverly Hills, spreading like stars. There were 500 guests, all dressed in their best clothes. Some were very rich tech company owners who had made billions. Others were people in the movie and music world who made big dreams happen. Some were generous donors who gave money to help others. Sarah walked through the crowd like she owned the room, and in a way, she did. These were her friends, her connections, built over years. People smiled when they saw her. They wanted to talk to her, be seen with her, and have her remember them. Sarah, the room looks amazing. said Geneva Chen, a real estate expert who owned much of downtown LA. This is your best event yet, added Alastair Finch, a businessman who had helped start some of Silicon Valley's biggest companies. Sarah thanked them with a real smile. Even though her personal life was messy, this was real. Her work was real. She was helping children, raising money for kids who needed it. That was what really mattered. She was talking to the director of a children's reading program, a woman whose work had helped thousands of kids learn to read, when she noticed something change. The room grew quiet. People turned their heads, whispers floated through the crowd like wind in the grass. Caspian had arrived, and he wasn't alone. Sarah didn't look at him right away. She finished her conversation, laughed at what the director said, touched her arm with affection. Then she looked. Caspian was at the top of the grand staircase. He wore a tuxedo. Sarah had helped him pick 6 months ago. He looked confident and powerful. But next to him was Uni Moss, looking like she belonged on a magazine cover. Her green dress matched the emerald necklace at her throat. Sarah's emerald necklace, the one Caspian had given her for their 10th anniversary, was now on another woman. Caspian's hand rested on Juni's back. Sarah realized what Caspian wanted everyone to see, that she had been replaced, that he had moved on. The room went quiet, waiting for her reaction. They expected her to cry or run away. But Sarah smiled. Not her polite smile, a real, warm smile. She lifted her champagne glass a little, not a toast, just a quiet acknowledgement. Then she turned back to her conversation as if nothing had happened. Because nothing had. Caspian had shown everyone exactly who he was. Sarah didn't need to say a word. The evening went on beautifully. Dinner was served by a famous chef. Each plate looked like art. Sarah sat at the head table with the important donors. Caspian and Juni sat nearby, visible but far enough to keep up the act that this was professional. Sarah watched them. Juni laughed at Caspian's jokes and touched his arm, pretending to be his devoted partner. But Sarah noticed what others didn't. People's eyes stayed on Caspian, not Juni. Older, powerful people in the room looked at him with pity and even a little dislike. Bringing his mistress to this event wasn't power, it was showing desperation. Sarah had been in these circles for 12 years. She knew the rules. You could divorce, have affairs, even date new people, but you didn't humiliate your partner publicly. Caspian had broken every rule, and he didn't even know it. After dessert, Sarah went to the podium to give her speech. The spotlight was warm on her shoulders. 500 people were listening. She had written this speech weeks ago before knowing Caspian would bring Juni. But she didn't need to change a word. Tonight, she began, her voice strong, we are here for something more important than any one person. We are here for children. Children who deserve to learn, to grow, and to know that learning gives them freedom. Their lives don't have to be limited by what they are born into. She paused. Caspian shifted in his seat, uncomfortable. Over the past 3 years, this foundation has raised over $15 million. We've helped 43 schools, given books, computers, tutors, and hope to thousands of children. I've learned that real power isn't about shining for a moment. Real power is about building something that lasts, something that helps others, something that leaves a mark long after we are gone. The room was silent. Everyone listened. Sarah's eyes swept the room, but didn't linger on Caspian. Tonight, we are going to raise more money than ever before. Not because of one person, but because everyone here knows what truly matters. Legacy isn't about showing off. Legacy is about what we give, what we build, what can't be taken away. Thank you for being part of something that really matters. The applause started slowly and then grew loud. People stood clapping not politely, but with real admiration. They weren't just applauding the speech, they were applauding Sarah. Her strength, her grace, her power. She had faced humiliation and never once lost her composure. Then came the auction. Expensive gifts donated by California's wealthiest, A week in a Malibu house sold for $80,000. Rare wine went for $55,000. A private concert by a Grammy winner went for $100,000. The final item was a painting Sarah had personally commissioned for this event. It was beautiful, golden, and dreamy. Bidding started at $20,000, quickly going to $50,000, then $75,000. Caspian raised his hand at $80,000, trying to show his money and power. Sarah didn't react. The bidding kept going, $90,000, $100,000, $120,000. Caspian raised his hand again and again. Only one other bidder was left, Geneva Chen, the real estate mogul. She looked at Sarah and raised her paddle one last time. $160,000. Caspian's jaw tightened. He bid again, $175,000. The room went quiet. Everyone could feel this was more than a painting. It was a man trying to win something, anything, to show he was still in control. Geneva smiled at Sarah and lowered her hand. Caspian had won the painting. Sarah just smiled to herself. Congratulations! You spent almost $200,000 to impress someone half your age at an event I created for a cause I built. You've already lost, and you don't even know it yet. When Sarah finally left the hotel near midnight, she looked at Beverly Hills sparkling below her. She had survived. She had shown everyone who she really was. But driving home, the weight of what had happened hit her. Caspian had humiliated her publicly, without thinking about her feelings. He didn't care. Sarah sat in her driveway and felt everything. The betrayal, the sadness, the exhaustion from holding herself together all night. Then she wiped her eyes, straightened her shoulders, and went inside. Feeling it and drowning in it were two different things, and Sarah never drowned. She didn't sleep that night. She sat in her home office, a room she had designed herself. Built-in bookshelves, windows looking at the pool. She made lists, careful, practical lists, not about revenge, but about her life. Joint accounts, separate accounts, property, her professional connections, and evidence she had collected over the past 6 months. Digital receipts, screenshots, a timeline of Caspian's affair that would stand up in court. By the time the sun rose over California, painting the sky in soft pink and gold, Sarah had a clear picture of her marriage. She had written it all down in lists and notes. It was neat, organized, and also very sad. She realized she had done so much more than Caspian. She had built more, owned more, and California law said that everything she and Caspian had earned together had to be shared fairly. Even the things only in Caspian's name, like his company shares, could be split. Caspian came home around 10 in the morning. He looked tired, but happy with himself. He found Sarah in the kitchen, already dressed, drinking coffee and reading the newspaper. "Quite a night," he said, pouring himself a cup as if nothing had happened the night before. As if he hadn't brought his girlfriend to the big party in front of everyone. Sarah didn't look up from the paper. The event raised $6.2 million, our highest total yet, Caspian said distractedly, probably texting Junie on his phone. "That's great," Sarah said, still calm. Vogue wrote about my speech. California Life said it was the most powerful moment of the night. Some donors even want to give more next year. She finally looked at him. "But there won't be a next year for me, at least not with the foundation." Caspian looked confused. "What do you mean?" "I'm resigning from the board," Sarah said clearly. "Effective immediately." "Sarah, that's dramatic. Last night was fine. Everyone had fun." "No, Caspian," Sarah said softly but firmly. "You brought your girlfriend to my event. You wore the jewelry I gave you and expected me to smile and be okay with it." Caspian looked a little uncomfortable but tried to act calm. "Alessandra is helping with the company. It's just business." Sarah's voice stayed steady. "Business, you say?" "That's what you call showing off your girlfriend in front of me." She set her coffee down carefully. "Don't act like this isn't a big deal." Caspian tried to brush it off. "You're making too big a deal of it." There it was. He was making her feel like she was overreacting when she had every reason to be hurt. Sarah took a deep breath. I want a divorce, she said, simple and final. Caspian laughed. You're upset. Don't make a rash decision. We've built a good life together. No, Caspian, you built a good life off my work, Sarah said. I helped your company grow. I made it possible to invest. I kept everything running while you made business decisions. That's not fair. My company is my success. You wouldn't have a company without me, Caspian said. Sarah's voice was calm but strong. That's not an opinion. It's a fact. I have every email, every plan, every meeting record. I have proof of all the deals I made happen. And Caspian, I also have proof of your affair for the past 6 months. I'm not threatening you. I'm telling you the truth. Caspian's confident face changed. What are you saying? I'm saying that I have evidence. Evidence of my work and of your mistakes. California law will protect me. Tomorrow morning, my lawyer will contact you with divorce papers. You can choose to make this easy, or you can make it expensive. Either way, I'm done, Sarah said. She walked past him to the bedroom to pack. Caspian followed. Sarah, wait. Let's talk. Don't throw away 12 years over a mistake. Sarah turned to him, her voice quiet but sharp. You already threw away 12 years? Every time you chose her over me, every lie, every time you introduced her as a colleague while I stood there, believing in you, you threw it away. I'm just refusing to live in the wreckage. Where are you going? Caspian asked. I'm staying at the Peninsula Beverly Hills while I look for a new apartment. My lawyer's info is on the kitchen counter. Have Junie help you process this. Sarah packed carefully. She took only what was hers. Her designer clothes bought with her own money, jewelry from before her marriage, her books, her laptop. She left behind anything Caspian had given her. As she rolled her suitcase to the door, Caspian said one last thing. You'll regret this. You're giving up a life people would kill for. Sarah stopped and looked at him. He looked small now, desperate, nothing like the man she had loved. She said softly, the life I'm leaving is one where I was invisible, where my value could be ignored, where my husband brought another woman to public events and expected me to be okay with it. That's not a life people would kill for. That's a life people die in. She walked out, got into her car, and drove away. Behind her, Caspian stood in the doorway, finally realizing what he had lost. But Sarah didn't look back. Ahead of her, California stretched wide under a bright blue sky, full of new possibilities she couldn't see yet, but knew were there. At the hotel, Sarah checked into her suite. It was elegant but calm, the kind of place where people didn't need to show off wealth. She unpacked her suitcase and sat on the bed, letting herself cry. Not for Caspian or her marriage, but for the younger version of herself who thought love meant helping someone else build their empire while forgetting her own. She cried for all the years she had made herself smaller to make him feel bigger. She cried for the dreams she had given up to support his. Then she washed her face, ordered room service, and called her lawyer. Anya Rodriguez was one of the best divorce lawyers in California, known for helping important clients with care and skill. Sarah had hired her 3 weeks earlier when Caspian mentioned bringing Alessandra to the gala. How are you? Anya asked warmly. I'm ready, Sarah said. How fast can we start? I already have the papers ready. We can file tomorrow morning. With the evidence you have and California's laws, we can get a strong settlement. His affair, the public embarrassment, your work on his company, it's all very strong, Anya explained. I don't want revenge. I just want out, Sarah said. Understood. I'll make it quick and clean, but Caspian's lawyers will fight. It won't be easy, Anya warned. Sarah smiled slightly. Nothing worth doing is easy. After the call, Sarah looked out her hotel window at Beverly Hills below. Caspian was probably calling lawyers, trying to make her look unreasonable, but she had spent 6 months preparing. She knew what she deserved. She knew her own value, and she knew something Caspian had forgotten. She wasn't just his partner. She was the brain behind the business, the one who made things happen. Without her, He was just another founder with a good idea. With her, he became a giant in the tech world. Now he would see what happened when the person who built it all walked away. Over the next days, Sarah started a new life. She met with her lawyer, planned her future, and told people she was ready to work as a consultant. She looked for apartments in places that felt new and exciting. Santa Monica near the beach, Venice with its art, downtown LA with its energy. And she started thinking about herself, not Caspian, not his company, but what she wanted. She realized she wanted to build something of her own, a consulting firm to help women in tech. She wanted to share all she had learned over 12 years, all her strategies, her connections, her knowledge to help other women succeed. She wanted to matter again, not as someone's wife, but as herself. 10 days after the gala, Sarah got a call from Geneva Chen, a famous businesswoman. "I know what you're going through. I'm sorry you're hurt, but I'm glad you're free," Geneva said. "I'm starting a new fund to help women start businesses. I need someone smart, strategic, and done being underestimated. That's you." Sarah felt hope. "I'm interested. Tell me more." They talked for an hour. By the end, Sarah had a job that would make her independent, strong, and respected. Geneva's fund had $200 million to invest, connections to the tech world, and a mission to change the industry. "I need your answer by Friday," Geneva said. "You're the one everyone underestimates because you make things look easy." "That's exactly what I need. Say yes." Sarah looked around her hotel room, temporary but full of possibility. She thought of Caspian, still thinking he had won. She thought of the life she had left behind, where her value was invisible. Then she thought of Geneva's offer and what it meant, a life she could truly call her own. She called back 15 minutes later. "Yes," Sarah said. "My answer is yes." 3 months later, Sarah stood in the Venice Beach office that would become Chen Lauren Ventures, the fund she was building with Geneva. The space wasn't perfect or fancy like her old house, but it was alive and full of energy. Exposed brick walls, big windows, skylights, everything felt real and strong. It felt like Sarah. "What do you think?" Geneva asked. "It's perfect," Sarah said, smiling, and she meant it. The divorce had been hard. Caspian's lawyers tried to say Sarah hadn't done much, painting her as a bitter ex-wife. But Sarah had proof. Emails, plans, recordings, testimony from employees, financial records. The judge saw the truth. Caspian couldn't argue with the facts. 6 weeks after Sarah's divorce was finished, she had walked away with $18 million. That included a big part of Caspian's company. But money wasn't the most important thing she got. The most important thing was freedom, dignity, and the truth. She had helped make Caspian's company a huge success. She wasn't just a wife watching from the side, she had built it too. Caspian was angry. He tried to make her look bad. He told reporters and blogs that Sarah was greedy and mean, but Sarah had spent years making friends with journalists, business leaders, and other important people. They trusted her. No one believed Caspian's lies. The story in the newspapers wasn't "mean wife takes money." It was "smart woman finally gets credit for building a tech empire." California Business Journal wrote a story called "The Woman Behind the Throne." Forbes wrote about how many tech companies were built by women who didn't get credit. Sarah became a symbol for all women who worked hard but were ignored. Now, Sarah was building something that was completely hers. She started Chen Lauren Ventures, a company that would give money to other women who were starting their own businesses. Geneva helped with money and connections. Sarah helped find the best ideas and plan smart strategies. Together, they wanted to change California's tech world by helping women who were often overlooked. "We have our first meeting next week," Geneva said, bringing Sarah out of her thoughts. "A woman from San Diego wants to show us her idea. She is making a computer program that helps doctors diagnose patients. All the big investors passed on her because she didn't have the usual background." Sarah smiled. "She worked in healthcare, not just went to a fancy school like Stanford. I think I'll like her." Geneva nodded. She reminds me of you. Someone brilliant, told she didn't count because she didn't fit the usual idea of a founder. Over the next months, Sarah worked hard on her company, just like she had helped Caspian's company before. But now, every success was hers. Every victory had her name. Every connection she made belonged to her. She moved into a beautiful apartment in Santa Monica, close to the ocean. It was smaller than her old house in Beverly Hills, but it was all hers. Every piece of furniture, every window view, every decoration. She picked it all because she loved it. She filled her bookshelves with books she always wanted to read. She set up a home office where she planned ideas to help new companies and change lives. She finally became the woman she had always wanted to be, someone who didn't shrink to fit someone else's story. Her professional life changed too. Shenleron Ventures' first fund sold out in just a few weeks. Investors wanted in, impressed by Geneva's experience and Sarah's talent for spotting great ideas. Their first investment was in the medical AI company from San Diego. In 6 months, that company raised $30 million. In a year, it was worth over $200 million. This proved that women founders who were ignored by big investors were actually smart investments. Sarah's days were full. She had meetings, strategy calls, and due diligence sessions. She traveled to San Francisco, Seattle, and Austin to meet founders building everything from clean energy solutions to educational technology. She used all the skills she had learned while working for Caspian, but this time to help women who would always remember that Sarah had believed in them first. The media noticed. Sarah was on the cover of Vanity Fair. She was interviewed on podcasts. She spoke at conferences about helping women founders. But now, her power came from what she had built, not from being married to someone famous. 6 months after the divorce, Sarah went to a fancy tech gala in San Francisco. These were the parties where tech leaders celebrated their work and showed off. Sarah wore black, a simple and elegant gown from LA. Her jewelry was small, just diamond studs from her grandmother. Her hair fell in soft waves past her shoulders. She looked like exactly what she was, a woman who had turned loss into power, humiliation into purpose, an ending into a new beginning. Caspian was there too, surrounded by his friends and investors. Uni, his new girlfriend, was with him. She was still beautiful, but Sarah noticed she looked smaller somehow, like reality was catching up. Sarah had heard that Caspian and Juni's relationship was having problems. The excitement of being a secret lover didn't last forever. Caspian saw Sarah and froze. He realized just how far she had come, how much she had built, and how completely she had moved past him. Sarah thought about walking over and saying something mean, but instead she just smiled warmly, genuinely, and returned to talking with a founder whose company she was thinking of investing in. That was the real win, not proving Caspian wrong, but not needing him at all. Later, Sarah stood on the balcony looking at the San Francisco city lights shining on the bay. Geneva joined her with 2 glasses of champagne. "Quite a journey," Geneva said. "Thank you," Sarah said, taking a glass, "for believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself." "I didn't give you potential," Geneva said. "I just gave you a chance to show everyone else what I already knew was there." Sarah smiled and clinked her glass with Geneva's. "I built this myself, and it's just the beginning." 6 months later, Sarah spoke at a conference in Los Angeles in front of 3,000 women entrepreneurs. "There's a story people like to tell," she said, "that our value comes from who loves us, who picks us, who says we're good enough. That story is dangerous. It's easier to build someone else's dream than risk building your own." The audience listened quietly. "I spent 12 years building someone else's empire. I was brilliant at it. I made decisions worth millions. I opened doors for people. I built networks that changed lives. And for a long time, I thought that was enough. That being behind the man was a kind of power. But it wasn't. It was hiding. I had made myself smaller so someone else could look bigger." Sarah paused, letting the words sink in. Women in the audience nodded. They knew that feeling. The night my husband brought his mistress to an event I organized, I had a choice. I could crumble, or I could remember who I really was. I chose to remember, and I remembered this. I had always been powerful. I just used my power for someone else's dream. Now I use it for mine. She clicked to the next slide showing the Chen Loron Ventures logo. In the years since I left my marriage, I've helped launch 12 companies, all founded by women. They've created over 300 jobs. They're working on healthcare, education, clean energy, and financial technology. Together, they're worth over $400 million and growing. The audience clapped loudly. I'm not telling you this to brag, Sarah said. I'm telling you because every founder was told she wasn't ready, that she needed more experience, that maybe she should wait or join someone else. But they said no. They bet on themselves, and they were right. She walked closer to the audience. Here's what I want you to know. Your value is not negotiable. Your dreams are not secondary. Your voice matters, even if no one is listening yet. The only permission you need to build something extraordinary is your own. The audience cheered, some crying, some clapping, all inspired. Sarah smiled. Will it be easy? No. Will people underestimate you? Yes. Will you face rejection and doubt? Yes. But here's what I learned. You are not defined by who stays. You are defined by who you become when they leave. After the conference, Sarah checked her phone. A message from her divorce lawyer, Anya, said, Caspian's company is in trouble. Stock is down 35%. Meanwhile, your companies are thriving. Sarah felt calm. Not happy, not smug, just curious. Caspian didn't matter anymore. Her phone buzzed again, Geneva asking if she wanted to celebrate dinner at Venice Beach. Sarah said yes. As she walked into the evening sky, orange and purple, she thought about all the versions of herself. The young professional who believed in startups, the wife who built an empire in the shadows, the woman who was hurt and humiliated, and the phoenix who rose to build something entirely her own. All of them were her. But now she was no longer defined by anyone else. She was Sarah, complete, whole, powerful, and still discovering everything she could become. Her phone rang while she waited for her car. The number was unknown. She almost didn't pick up, but something made her answer. Hello, Sarah said. Hi, this is Alessandra Moss, a young, nervous female voice said. Sarah stopped. She was surprised. What can I do for you, Alessandra? The young girl's voice shook. I need to say I'm sorry for everything, for the gala, for helping humiliate you, for being so young and silly and thinking that being chosen by a powerful man made me important. Sarah stayed quiet, listening. Alessandre continued, I'm leaving Caspian. Our relationship ended quickly once it became real instead of exciting. I realized I spent so much time trying to be what he wanted that I never knew who I really am. And watching you after leaving him, watching how you changed everything, made me realize I want to be like you. Not the you who was married to Caspian, but the you who walked away and built something amazing for yourself. Sarah leaned against her car, thinking. What do you want from me, Alessandre? She asked. I don't know if I have the right to ask anything, but if you are willing to talk to someone who was foolish enough to hurt you, I'd like to learn from you. How you found the courage to choose yourself, how you built your life. Sarah thought about it. About holding grudges versus opening doors. About what real strength meant. Okay, she finally said. Meet me at the Earth Cafe in Santa Monica tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. And Alessandre, come ready to talk about your dreams, not Caspian. Because if we do this, it's about who you want to be, not who you were. Thank you, Alessandra whispered. Thank you for being bigger than I deserve. I'm not being big, Sarah said softly. I'm being free. That's different. She hung up and watched the last light fade from the California sky. Could she really mentor the woman who had been her husband's mistress? She didn't know yet. But she knew this. Holding anger against Alessandre was like holding anger against Caspian. It gave them power they didn't deserve. Sarah had spent a year learning that the opposite of love wasn't hate, it was indifference. She was completely done caring about Caspian. Alessandra was different. She was young, foolish, but maybe Sarah could help her avoid the same mistakes. Maybe helping her would be part of Sarah's own growth. Not because Alessandre deserved it, but because Sarah had become the kind of woman who lifted others instead of keeping them down. That evening, Sarah met Geneva at a restaurant in Venice Beach, right on the boardwalk. They could see the sunset paint the Pacific Ocean in amazing colors. They toasted to the success of their conference, to their first year in business, to everything still to come. I got an interesting call today, Sarah said, and told Geneva about Alessandre. Geneva smiled. Are you going to help her? I think so, Sarah said. Not because I forgive her for the gala, but because I've learned something. The best revenge isn't hurting someone, it's growing. If I can help her become someone who doesn't need a powerful man to feel valuable, that might be the strongest thing I could do. You're either a saint or a genius, Geneva said. Neither, Sarah said. I'm just someone who's done saying sorry for being powerful, and I think the world needs more women who feel that way. They clinked glasses as the sun set, painting the sky gold and red. It felt like triumph, possibility, like everything Sarah had become and would keep becoming. 6 months later, Shen Loran Ventures announced their second fund, $300 million in capital, triple the first. Sarah was on the cover of Fortune magazine as one of the most important women in venture capital. The article talked not just about her work, but her journey from being invisible to being a powerful entrepreneur. On the same day, Sarah got many messages from founders she had invested in, from women who saw themselves in her story, from investors who wanted to work with her. There was also a message from Caspian. She almost deleted it without reading, but curiosity made her open it. I was wrong about everything. I'm sorry. Sarah read it, then deleted it. No response needed. His apology didn't matter anymore. She was writing a new story now, one where she was the hero, the one in charge of her own life, one where her value wasn't about who chose her, but about who she chose to become. That evening, Sarah stood on her Santa Monica balcony, looking at the Pacific Ocean stretching to the horizon. Somewhere in the city, Caspian was living with his choices. Alessandre was slowly learning to value herself. And Sarah was exactly where she was supposed to be, free, strong, complete. She had been publicly humiliated at a gala where her husband's mistress shined for a moment. But Sarah had taken the night, and every night after. She built an empire from nothing, turned betrayal into purpose, endings into beginnings. She had become the woman she had always been capable of being. And that was the real story. Not about revenge, but about remembering your worth when everyone else forgets it. About building yourself into something amazing when the world tries to make you small. About being a queen who doesn't need anyone else's kingdom because she built her own. Sarah's journey wasn't about revenge. It was about remembering. When we are most hurt, most embarrassed, most invisible, we have a choice. Accept the story others tell about our worth or rewrite it ourselves. The world will try to tell you who you are by who loves you or approves of you, but your value exists no matter what. Sometimes the best gift someone can give you is leaving you. Because then you have to find yourself again. Remember who you were before you made yourself smaller for someone else. Sarah didn't win by hurting Caspian. She won by building something so amazing, so truly hers, that his opinion didn't matter. That's the lesson. Your freedom doesn't need their destruction. It needs your courage to choose yourself, even when no one else does. You are not defined by who stays in your life. You are defined by who you become when they leave. And when you finally remember your worth, the whole world feels different. Not because you changed it, but because you stopped asking for permission to be extraordinary. You already are.